So here's the money shot. Will it start? Kids, this is called a choke, which helps the engine start. Right, ready?
Yep.
First time.
Hello and welcome to What Makes This Bike Great, and today we're talking about the 1993 Ducati Monster M900, the original, the OG, and I'm here with my old mate Paul Lang, whose bike this is. Hello mate, you alright?
Yeah, I'm very good. Yourself?
Very well, thank you very much.
Good man, good man.
This bike's very special. I mean, back in the day I probably sneered at a bike like this because I was all about sports bikes. I was all about 996s.
Yeah.
But in actual fact, this bike probably saved Ducati, didn't it?
Well, it did. I mean, Cagiva owned Ducati at the time, and they were down on their luck.
Yeah.
I mean, there is people that sneer at it. It's the girls' bike and stuff like that, and I've had all those jokes. Please put in the comments any new ones for me. But this bike did save Ducati, and I like that fact. I mean, there's a lot of the guys out there on their Panigale V2s and Rs and supercalifragilistics racing around with full carbon and stuff like that. But you guys wouldn't have any of that if it wasn't for this. I mean, they were in trouble, and a young man at the time, Miguel Galluzzi, was poached from Honda, and the Castiglione brothers took him on.
Yeah.
And so he's in his design studio, and he was flicking through a Japanese magazine.
Yeah.
And he saw someone had taken an 851, taken all the fairing off it, and he thought, that looks cool. So behind the scenes,
Yeah.
he put a lock on his studio and he got his scribble pad out, and he created what you see before me. He had a 851 frame, 851 engine, was mucking around, he was nicking parts off the production line, so I'm told. Sorry, Miguel, if I'm getting you in trouble.
Sure.
And he pulled up in a car park, and I think one of the Castiglione brothers saw it and went, "Whose is that?" And Miguel had to stick his hand up, and they went, "Right, we want you to build that for us. That looks stunning." He goes, "Brilliant, it's an 85, no, you've got to use the 900 SS engines."
Yeah.
We got loads of them out the back in the shed, okay, and well, he created what you see before you.
And it's all about simplicity, wasn't it? So it's basically got an 851 frame,
Yep,
or some people say
or an 888, yep,
851 is probably very similar. The 900 SS engine,
correct, yep,
L twin, V twin, whatever you want to call it,
yep.
about 70 horsepower.
It's I've claimed
reckon?
67. I don't know how many horses have bolted from mine. About 60, about 60 foot-pounds of torque.
Yeah.
Still feels torquey. Still feels great. And about 185 kilograms. So you know,
Like, no stodge on this.
oh, none whatsoever. Only when I'm on it.
Now, what I like about old Ducatis is they're very simple, they're very characterful, and I think unfortunately nowadays that's been kind of sucked out of them. You know, especially if you compare to the new Monster with its cast alley frame. They're brilliant bikes, but they've been forced to make them very polished now.
Yeah.
Very expensive. They've got to get through Euro rules and all the rest of it. They're full of electronics and technology, but it has taken some of the soul away, hasn't it?
It has. I mean, when I start this up, I mean, I have to pull on this little lever, kids, called a choke, and when it starts, most of the time, it just fires into life, and this sound that booms out of it just sounds amazing. And you know, there's no, oh, I better see what traction control and which ECU I need to turn on. I mean, this thing hasn't even got a clock on it, you know, and I love that old school feeling, because we've both ridden some fantastic things. I was on a Fireblade CBR RR SP RS whatever, yes, and it was phenomenal, but I just feel I need an IT degree, or I need to have worked at NASA just to start this thing. And this is proper old school. I mean, there's hardly anything on the switchgear. I mean, this one, that's where you turn the lights on and off. You know what I mean? Sometimes you're going along going, oh, I haven't got my lights on. But I love that old school feel. Now, you're saying what makes this bike great. I think this bike is fantastic. And don't get me wrong, it isn't the bike that I want to be standing in front of. My dream bike, 916, 1995, SP, whitetail unit, Termignones. That's still the poster bike for me. But they're what? £17,000, you know, if you find a good one. Whereas this I got for £1,700, just over.
No way.
Which was a bit, it was a bit of a bargain. And the guy, this had about 3 or 4, 5.
So when did you get it?
I got this about 8 years ago.
Wow.
And I spotted it because I was working on Bike Magazine at the time, and I a sister title, Practical Sports Bikes.
Yeah, so we should say that you're a former designer for Motorbike Magazine and Car Magazine.
Yes,
you're all about shapes and colours.
I love design, and I love creative design. I love clever design, and also when you can see this, I like things lining up and stuff. But I was walking past Practical Sports Bike, and this was on the cover, and I went, oh, I've always loved them. Always loved them. They knew I was still searching for a 916. They went, well, funny enough, it's for sale. So I phoned the bloke up and he went, I've just sold it to my boss. And it went, so nothing else in the garage. 2 years later, I get a call from the guy who bought it off him, said, would you like it? Went down there, took the van, took a bundle of cash, went there, and he goes, do you want to ride it? I went, no. I know it's a good one, because when, I believe, at the NEC, it was 25 years of the Ducati Monster, they had all the monsters lined up. This was at the front.
Wow.
This actual bike was at the front. So I knew it was a good one, and sad to say I got him down on price, but it, you know, it had...
So yeah, talking through this particular bike, what's the history of it? How many owners? Is it being restored? Is it original condition?
I think I can't remember, there's been about 6 or 7 different owners. I'd like to say this is original. When I bought it, it had one of those open clutch covers.
It's a dry clutch, isn't it?
Yes, so I he gave me the standard clutch cover, put that on. It had these chrome, sort of beautiful stainless steel exhausts, took them on, put the standard ones back on. It had a cowl over the front, took that off. It had drop down mirrors. I put those back on. I've put it completely back to standard.
Completely standard.
Even the rear mudguard that looks like someone's pinched it off a wheelbarrow. I love that. You know, even this strut is yellow. Still don't know why that's yellow. Just kept it. So I've put it all back to standard. I don't know whether it comes across on the camera. I think someone's repainted the mudguard. Well, mudguard isn't the right red. Tank isn't the right red. Round the Ducati logo should be gold, and it isn't. This is the original colour. This is the proper Ducati colour. But do you know what? I don't mind.
Because that's what gives it.
I really don't mind. There's again, in Practical Sports Bikes, there was someone who spent about 20 grand restoring one back to pristine. Every bolt, every screw, every nut was pristine. But I don't want a show pony. No. I want a bike that I'm going to ride.
And you do ride it, don't you?
I ride this quite a lot at the moment. I just enjoy riding it, and I know that, you know, we'll be going down the local roads around here, and then I'll want to go past on a GSXR, and then there'll be an RS660. But I tell you what, this thing can hold its own. And when you sort of see red, when you're embarrassing people on other things on this thing, they're going, "What the hell's that? What's that old piece of crap going past?" But when you ride it later, I think you're gonna. I think you're gonna.
Old, isn't it?
Well, it's 1993. Go on, do the maths. Go on, this is good. 93. So that's 31. Yeah, you go. Brilliant.
That is old. How many miles?
Well, it says 21,000. I don't know whether that's an original clock or original mileage or whatever. But even if it has done 21, still looks all right. Look, there's bits that getting rusty and paint's flaking off here. And I think the mudguard was red. black, then red, and now it's black. I can see a bit of red come through, and there's bits and bobs, but I just want to ride it. I just want to ride this bike, and I do enjoy riding it. If someone said, is an 916 SP, Langy, for about $4,500, you go, no, I just think dodgy knees, bad back, grey hair, hurty wrists, belly going over the tank. I'd go on that and I'd catch myself in the mirror and going, get off that tubby and get back on your monster.
And what's a Ducati, old Ducati, like to live with? You know, people say, oh, you've got to worry about belts and all this kind of stuff. Is it a scary proposition?
It was at first, but I got a very good friend, Wayne, at G-Tech Performance, who tickles Ducatis for a living, and he does look after me. I mean, this has had 2 sets of belts, and you know when everyone says, oh, electrics? Funny enough, I wish we were doing this video about 2 months ago, because I had my first electrical problem. Me and my son, I took my son on the back, and we were going around the corner, and then suddenly it just stopped. I was like, what's that? Took the seat off, there's a clicking noise, must be a starter actuator. All it was, I limped it back to Wayne. It was just the earth for the engine had just come off the bolt at the back. There was no bolt, and that's all it was. So that bolt has probably been moving around since 1993 and has come off, and that's the only real problem I have had with this bike, because all the previous owners have looked after it. I've done 2 belt changes, and there's silly things that go wrong. It cost about 400 quid about a year ago, because Wayne would tell me there was some actuator switch inside and it's hard to get hold of. The other thing, when we had it serviced, we needed another fuel filter. And right down here, the fuel filter's here. Now, being a nerd, that band around says Ducati. I wanted an original fuel filter, and they are non-existent. They're all see-through, aren't they, in the fuel? But that meant I had to get rid of the Ducati ring around it. And I don't know how Wayne found one. It must have been in Bologna, down the back of someone's sofa. So even little bits of detail, I love stuff like that.
Talking of which, you're a designer.
Yes.
What is it about what are the details that you like the most?
Well,
there's lots of little elephant logos around the bike, isn't there?
That's for me one of the best thing. I mean, when I first rode an M750, when funny enough working on MCN, and I just loved the view of the white back clock and the little idiot lights, the little chocolate box, I think most people call them. But also because of the heritage we talked about, when I first got this bike, I went elephant hunting. What I mean by that is, I think it's a cracking little logo of the Cagiva old school logo.
That's right,
And every time I looked around this bike, I found another one. There's one on the tank. There's even one behind the clutch cover. There's one on the side of the engine. Even the wheels are made by Brembo, but they still have the logo of the elephant in there. And I just love things, all these little touches, knowing full well that it came from Cagiva. Even the gear and brake levers has a little rubber thing. It says Cagiva on it. It fell over once, and I broke the lever off. And I don't mind admitting, it took about 2 to 3 cans of WD-40. I wanted that rubber thing off because the new ones don't come with the Cagiva logo, and it took ages. So I wanted to keep it totally original. I just love the sweeping lines. I think it's a pretty bike, and also the headlight is the right height as well. It's a good looking bike. And I think, you say, would you ever get rid of it? I think the only bike now at my age I would get rid of this for is Triumph Speed Twin. I think the Speed Twin is again a classic looking bike. If Little Green Men came down and asked me what does a motorbike look like, I would show them a Triumph Speed Twin. But at the moment, it doesn't do much more for me than this thing. I love the heritage.
And it's got soul. I mean, talking of Brembo and outside suppliers, that was one of the problems with this bike at the beginning, because Cagiva weren't paying their bills, were they?
No.
These weren't coming out the factory fast
No,
enough, so
no.
almost this didn't survive.
Yeah, that's a great point. And also you'll park this next to someone else's bike and someone else's monster, and you're going, my frame looks a different colour.
Yeah.
Oh, I've got black wheels. Did you have black wheels? No, mine didn't come. You know, they were just grabbing. They were grabbing anything to get these out, and it was popular. Which is surprising because at the time, this was $7,500.
Yeah.
And someone clever or someone will come with the comments below and say, in today's money, a part bin special that we think it was just thrown out, it's about 12, 13 grand.
Yeah.
But like we said before, it's saved Ducati, and I think even in 2021, I think there's been about 300,000 monsters.
Right.
I mean, it might be close to 350 now with the new versions and that. So that is a lot of bikes for a part bin special girly motorcycle. So I'm proud to ride this bike.
Brilliant. But all that's left for me to ask you is, can I have a go?
No, you can't. Not a chance. You bend it, you mend it. Of course, okay. It would be an honour for Neves' pert peachy bottom to fire this around the lanes around here. Go for it.
Much, mate.
No problem.
I've never actually ridden a Monster 900 original 93 bike. It's one that's always been in my kind of consciousness, but today with Mr. Lang letting me ride his pride and joy, it is just amazing. It's really good. I mean, okay, it's not as impressive as a modern day Monster with its cast alley chassis and its power and its handling and its brakes and its electronics. You know, you could take one of those on the track. But the best thing about this is that it's just really enjoyable at normal road speeds. It's got soul, it's got character, it feels really light, it's really responsive. It's got kind of it hasn't got a digital feel like a, you know, it's not a PlayStation, it's not a Spotify, it's an LP. It's got warmth, it's got a chocolatey power delivery. It's just beautiful. It handles really nice, it's quite soft, but it doesn't misbehave. Brakes are lovely. It's just a really enjoyable feel-good bike, and that's really what's missing from a lot of the modern day stuff now. So in terms of what makes this bike great, it's brilliant to ride, it makes you smile, but it's also responsible, as we said before, for Ducati being able to produce the bikes that they do today to be able to dominate MotoGP and World Superbike and everything in between. And that's really what makes this bike great. So I've got to say a big thank you to Mr. Lang for letting me on his pride and joy. And I'm sure he's got a few more things to say about it, actually.
Look, I don't know shit. Sorry, do I need to look at you now? Before you go, another nerdy fact. Monster. It's got to be the best name for a bike. Comments below, what is a better name than a Monster? I don't believe you. Anyway, coming up with a name. The bosses at Ducati were probably doing focus groups and stuff like that. But Miguel Galluzzi's kids had these little toy dinosaurs called Little Monsters. And that's what he wanted to call it, Monster. He thought, what a great name. Not Il Monstro or whatever, none of that. It wanted it to be called Monster. Now, the bosses were like not really up for that. But just before the bike was unveiled at Bologna, a French importer had already leaked the fact that it was going to be called Ducati Monster. And they had to go with a name. Right, one thing I like about this bike is how easy it is to get to the tank. Another bit I like is the fact that this end can is just rounded there, which denotes that this is a 93, because a 94, they were slightly chamfered from the factory. And when I put the standard cans back on, I noticed one side was chamfered, one side wasn't, and it drove me nuts. So I had to search for a right-hand can. And lo and behold, there was some bloke on eBay who was selling a left-hand can. I needed a right-hand can. No money, swapped hands. We just swapped end cans. And that level of detail is a little bit nerdy, but I'm so pleased because this is an A13 can, this is a B13 can, and now I will now get my coat. well, Ducati. So the one thing I did notice straight away was the suspension isn't great on this. I mean, there's no adjustability at the top, no adjustability at the bottom. I don't think this thing even knows pre-bound damping. And so I took it to a fantastic company called MCT, and a guy there, Darren, tickled and drilled and didn't change the spring but changed the oil and stuff, and it is a lot better. But do you know what? I ride around it. With this thing, you just ride around those things. I know people want traction, ECU, AX and all axis 6 times and which mode. This, you just ride and you feel it. You feel every bump, but it's not rock hard suspension that's been tweaked at the Nürburgring. It just feels plush, and I still love it. Here's another nerd alert thing that I did. So it came with different grips, but when I was doing a bit of research, I remembered that someone was talking about the grips weren't right. So I found the original ones. Now, being a Carl Fogarty fan and Paolo Casoli, and I remember a logo that said Domino, and I looked into it and they were the grips. So if you notice, these are original grips with the Domino logo on. So the other thing I like about this bike is, I don't know whether people called it the bootstrap or something about skiing and that, but this means you can lift the tank up. Now, don't get me wrong, this is an Olympic sport to undo this and put it back on. But I'm going to come around here because it's easier. You can lift the tank up in one go. Oh no, we're going to have to cut that. Reason being is you've got to take the seat off. I forgot that, or else I break the seat. Right. One thing I like about this bike as well is it's very simple. Look, it's almost Lego Technic. Yeah. And one thing I like about this is getting to the battery. It's not tucked in a swing arm. It is.
Where is it?
It's under here.
No.
There it is. Easy to get to, and also look at this little clip. It's got a bonnet strap. Right, it's going to take me about a week to get this back on now. Right, okay, so you've got to see. Right, so the clip's there. Right, okay, let's go for it. Ah. Oh, boom, first go. Woohoo! That's got to be a record. Did you get that?